I like that music a lot. That's a lot of fun. Okay, today on Ask Your Broker, I'm not your broker yet, but I'd like to be. If you're in the Austin market and you need help finding real estate, um, give you a shout out. My name's Ed Neuhaus, Neuhaus Realty Group. I am the broker. Hey, look, my chair's floating over there. That's weird. Oh no, you're seeing behind the scenes. This is the fun of live TV or live YouTube. It's not supposed to be fantastic, is it? Anyway, today we're doing another installment of Ask Your Broker, where I pretend to be your broker and give you the best advice that I know. And today we're going to cover just kind of a topic about the general malaise in the market, where a lot of people don't feel like they can actually afford to buy a house, or not just necessarily afford, just find a house, a good house to buy. They're worried that there aren't good deals, the market is too expensive, interest rates are too high, and all of these things. And honestly, if that's you, I get it. I also personally haven't bought anything in a year now. And that's just a cycle for me. I go through these cycles where I buy a lot, and then I have to manage getting those properties up and running and doing the things that we need to do to those properties to make sure that we can move forward with them. And unlike some of the flippers we know, I just can't do that. Maybe I'm chicken. I don't know. I just can't quite bring myself to buy 50 homes a year. I just don't know how to do that. But certainly it is doable and people can do it. So let's talk about a little bit of why people. Now, I know you're going to immediately think the flippers are the bad people, right? The people that are causing you to not be able to buy homes. But let's talk about this general malaise and this attitude where a lot of people don't think that they can buy houses. They think, oh my gosh, the market is so expensive, and it is in some places very expensive, or the rates are too high, and they don't want to buy because of that. And that is also true. But listen, there are lots of ways that you can get around, number one, expensive homes. Number two, competing for homes. You don't really need to do that. And number three, there is ways to get around the higher rates. So, not to be, I don't want to sound disingenuous, but really the only thing keeping you from buying a house right now is you. If that's something you want to do, I 100% believe you can do it. There are a ton of people out there that buy houses every year with no money down and no credit, frankly. And there's a ton of people out there that use other people's money to do all of that and never have a penny in the deal. Most of them are called home flippers, and there's nothing against home flippers. They're great. I love them. They're good people. And they serve a great function in the market, right? They go and they find homes that are not in good condition, and they make them in good condition. And they do obviously make a profit for doing that, but that's okay, right? Everyone's allowed to make money in real estate or in life, right? So the notion that home flippers are bad because they make money, I would argue, is silly, right? You can go do that right now. Anyone watching this right now can go buy a home and flip it. Buy a home for less than it's worth, put money into renovating it and getting the home up to value that is more than market value, or, well, market value at least, but maybe more than market value. It's not that hard, just frankly. So if you're sitting there on the sidelines thinking, oh my gosh, woe is me, I can't buy a house because they're too expensive. Okay, well, let's talk about too expensive. If you think homes are too expensive, that's fine. You may be right. The ones that are listed on the market, the ones you're seeing on Zillow, are probably too expensive. The job of the listing agent is to get the most amount of money they can for the seller. They're not trying to make a deal for the buyer at all, ever. That's not the job of the listing agent, right? Making the deal happen is the only restraint from the prices going through the roof. If the listing agent's job was just to list the property for whatever they felt like listing it for, and they didn't have to actually sell it, they would just do that. But that, of course, is why we have some constraints, right? So we have to have the deal closed to make any money. So if you think the market is overpriced, one, I would encourage you to stop looking at Zillow, stop looking at the MLS, and go out and find properties that are not yet listed. And you might be saying, how do you do that? Well, It is as simple as knocking on people's doors. If you see a particular house that you like, or that you know something about, or maybe you saw it listed once and it didn't sell, you should knock on that door without your realtor, or ask your realtor to do it if you want. But go ask them how to, if they want still like to sell their house. And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, yep. And if they don't have a realtor involved, guess what? Price went down. Now, as a realtor, that doesn't help me make any money, but I'm just pointing out the reality is you don't need realtors to buy houses. I buy houses all the time that aren't listed on the MLS. I go out, I door knock, I send letters, I make phone calls, and I find properties that are not listed. This is exactly how home flippers do it. So if you think homes are overpriced, that's fine. One way to get around that is to find your own listings, right? Don't wait for other people to list the properties. Find your own listings. Door knock, send letters, make phone calls. I promise you, every phone number you need is available on the internet. And it's not very expensive to write letters and send them to people. It's $1 a letter, right? If you want to canvass a neighborhood, you're talking maybe 1,000 properties. Maybe you don't even want all 1,000 of them. There are free ways to find bedroom and bath count of all the properties, square footage, all publicly available information. I mean, let's say you only want 3,000 square feet, or maybe let's say you only want 1,200 square feet in a neighborhood. You don't want anything bigger? Then you go and you make a list of all the 1,200 square foot homes in a neighborhood. It's going to be 75. And should you spend $75 to save 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? Absolutely, you should. So that's number one. If you think the prices are too much, that's how you find homes that are not yet listed. And that's actually going to solve problem number 2, or maybe it was number 3, the competition. If you're competing with other people to buy houses and you can't quite get one, well, there's a whole lot of strategy into why you aren't getting one, or getting the deal. And there's too many variables to really know or talk about here. But the simplest way to make sure you get one is to just not have any competition. If nobody else knows the property is available for sale, you're the only one because you did the strategy I talked about earlier: door knocking, letters, cold calling. No one else knows that property is available. You are going to be in the driver's seat. You will get that deal if you want it. You just have to make a deal with the seller. It's not that hard. You just have to come to an agreement. So that solves competition, right? So we solved price, we solved competition. And when we go back to talk about price, we're talking, I just saved you and the seller 6% if you don't actually need a realtor, right? Now you can still, if you found a property today and you called me and said, Ed, I found this property. The seller and I are in agreement. We've already talked about all the price and everything. We just need someone to get us to the closing table. I have done this in the past, and I will do this again, where I just write the contract and get you to closing. Depends on the price of the property. But for a typical property in Austin, $400,000 property, we'll do that for like $1,000, maybe $2,000, right? It just depends on how much time you want me to be involved, right? It's a time versus money effort, or money at game at that point. As long as I'm not advising anybody, I'm not advising any side, I'm just pushing paperwork and making it happen, I don't need that much money, right? It's when I start advising a side, that's when my liability coverage comes into question. That's when I have to worry about saying the wrong thing or whatnot. And I actually have to look into things, like if I have to tell you how much the property is worth, or tell you if you're getting a good deal, then that honestly costs more, right? It costs me more to have the data, to have access to the information. So I have to recoup that somewhere, right? No big deal, right? But if you found the property by yourself and you wanted to save the money you and the seller did, that's fine. Every realtor in the country should be okay with that. There's really no reason they shouldn't be. So I've saved you money in this call, and I've saved you, I've made it so you don't have any competition, right? So, what are the other hangups? Why can't you buy a house? Rates are too much? Okay, fine. Rates are too much. How much are rates? 7, some 8% right now, 7. I think it's really probably high 6s, low 7s today. 8% if you're buying an investment property with 20% down. But that doesn't mean you have to pay that rate. You can buy a brand new home, new construction, sell those those sellers. The builders are often offering a lower rate, at least for the first couple of years. I saw a text the other day. It said 4.99% for 3 years. So under 5% for 3 years. So that really solves your rate problem, doesn't it? Another way you can do this creatively, I think, really creatively, is if um, you work with sellers who are offering seller financing or offer to take over their loan. Most loans are assumable in some form or fashion. And if you find a seller that has a 2.5% rate on their loan and they're out there, um, some of them are willing to let you assume their loan and take over the payments. You need an attorney to do this, a very well educated attorney on the subject matter of loan assumptions to make sure it's done right. But it's done all the time. And there are a lot of people that are worried about that. And I think there are some gotchas that could come back to get you. But if you have a good attorney who's done it before, who knows how to do it, I think it's very, 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 very doable. So let's see. In this call, I've solved the competition problem, home prices are too much problem, and the rate problem. What were the other problems? I'm not going to say y'all need to stop eating avocado toast. I had that for breakfast this morning. That was great. I mean, sure, if you had more money, this is true for anyone, anywhere, ever. If you have more money, it makes things easier, right? If you have $1 million in cash, you can afford to right now walk into any house so it's listed for $1 million or less and make an offer of cash to close today. And that will get everybody's attention. But, we don't all have that. So, anyway, I'm sad that a lot of people feel it's too hard to buy a house right now. It's not. It's not any harder to buy a house today than it was 6 months ago or a year ago or 2 years ago. Arguably, the hardest time to buy a house in the last 5 years was the month the world shut down during COVID. And I did great business during that month. We had several closings. The only hard part was, how do you sign a document if you can't stand in front of somebody to sign a document? That was a title company problem. It wasn't a real estate problem. We've been doing electronic signatures on our side for years. Anyway, I digress, and I'm going to go now because I think I've said everything I needed to say. My name is Ed Neuhaus, Neuhaus Realty Group. I'm a broker in Austin, Texas. If you know anybody looking for a home in Austin or the surrounding hill country, I'd love to offer my name as someone who can help them. And if you don't know anybody in Austin, you will say you're watching this in Tennessee, that's fine. Comment below, tell me where you're at. Tell me if there's something I missed. I'd love to talk about it. Um, you know, if you can subscribe, that would actually help me a lot too. But if not, I understand. I'm a little much for some people. Anyway, hope you all stay safe and have a great rest of your day. How do I end this broadcast? No idea. End broadcast.